Okay. Testing, testing. Does this work? I guess it does. Okay. So, I was sitting here. I gotta rewrite Rose and everything. I really want to. And for some reason, I had started a new doc because because I know I had tried to do timelines for her before and failed to do that, but this time I was gonna just write out the stories, titles for her, and like the summaries and all that, like I did for Sugar and Spice, and see if that helps. So, let's see. Let's see. Okay, hold on a second. Okay. So, when I first started writing her for Brownies, the first story that I did was a new friend. A new friend. Second one I did was Rose's first batch, which was her first play date, and then of Demons and a Rose, which was a really weird one. Demons and a Rose. Okay, so a new friend was basically okay. So a new friend. Okay, so what was a new friend about? Let's summarize it. So a new friend was basically, it started with her like waking up to her mother, and it was supposed to like introduce her family dynamic, what her immediate family was like, the way that they lived. Like it was supposed to like set the scene of how she lived and what her life is like, kind of like setting the tone for the way her life was at this point. But also it was, her introduction to Zara, the two of them meeting and becoming friends and eventually being separated by the end. I'm not sure if I'm thinking about having the story like end the night that she goes home, like after they meet the first day and go home. I think I'm just going to end it there, and then I'm going to make a new story where they play and like we discover all this morbid stuff later. Cuz I think it would help build more development for Zara as well. And like her, like the first time that she trusted a pony and called them a friend, the first time she met them, Dollface, it did not end well. So I can see her being afraid to do that again, but also because she just kind of got trust issues anyway. So I think it would make more sense, frankly, for Zara to like hold on, be more reserved and afraid at this point, because she hasn't really truly broken yet, you know what I mean? Like her and Rose being pulled apart was meant to be more of the breaking point. So I'm kind of thinking that I should space this out to do two different stories, where a new friend is just where Rose and her family are introduced, and she meets Zara and her parents, like both of their parents meet, and then the story ends after they've been introduced and they become friends, and Rose and her family leave that night. Maybe there's a scene where Rose is at home and like we show how Rose's mom tends to be a little two-faced, how her mom behaves with other people, with strangers outside of their house, and how she behaves when they're at home behind closed doors. Like there's a lot of opportunity to showcase a lot of what their family dynamic is like and what her family is actually like. Like this is a really good exercise in showing instead of telling, which I really need to get a handle on. It's very difficult for me. I don't know why. But anyway, I'm thinking about separating the events of a new friend into two stories. I'm really thinking about that. Let me pause this recording real quick and write this down, and then I'll unpause it again. So, I wrote the summary for a new friend. That took a while, but So I wrote it out. I'm not sure, like, I kind of did okay with the summaries for Sugar and Spice, because those stories, first of all, are already written out in pretty decent detail, so it was easier to do that. But with these stories, like, they're written out, but now I'm calling into question, like, what they're actually about and how the events are going to unfold, because they're going to unfold differently this time. Like, not a new friend won't be too different. I would say the main differences are going to be how Rose behaves, how Zara behaves, and there's going to be more of a focus on her family. So I'm really gonna have to kick the character focus up to 11 for this one, because I gotta write for 3 characters other than Rose, and yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's the little things, you know, the little things, the showing and telling balance. It's a lot. But I wrote the summary for a new friend, and it basically goes like this. It says, a new friend. Misty Rose Frost and her family get to running low on groceries, and her parents decide to go to a somewhat nearby town called Wonderfree, which Rose had heard was something of Misty Rose Frost and her family get to running low on groceries, and her parents decide to go to a somewhat nearby town called Wonderfree, which Rose had heard was something of an oasis for farmland and produce growing, as it was grown year-round, grown well, and sold for cheap. However, during the trip, Rose catches sight of a fascinating, mystical-looking unicorn filly, and forces the courage to introduce herself to her. The two become friendly with each other within this single afternoon, and the two of them find a joy they had never felt before. I'm not really sure where to go from there, or how it's going to be, but as long as I get the basic idea, it'll be alright. Now I'm on to Rose's first batch. I'm gonna write the summary out for that. This shouldn't take long, because it's a gore story, so I'm probably not going to spend too much time writing it, because you don't want to write too much about violence in a summary. I mean, come on. So I wrote the summary. It's very short. It's literally a sentence, basically. It says, after years of morbid desires and morbid curiosity, Rose finally reaches her breaking point, and through a stroke of mad genius, concocts a plan and a new recipe, both of which will change her forever. And I think that one's pretty straightforward. I didn't think too hard about it. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's gonna happen, especially if you've read these types of MLP grimdarks before. Like, you know what's going to happen. I don't think I need to explain it very in depth, but there's a summary for that. And of Demons and a Rose, this has been a working title for like 3 years, almost 4 years now, actually, and I just cannot figure out what I want this to be. Like, I thought for a while, since, you know, her name is Rose, I was thinking about doing, like, I was thinking of doing, like, a flower pun or a plant pun about, you know, uprooting herself or something like that, or, like, I had made a joke about a rose finding its thorns or whatever, like a reference to the bakers. There's a bunch of stupid, cheesy, like, pun ideas, because for me, when I make titles to my stories, it has to be wordplay and puns to some degree. Like, that's most of my titles, typically, because I guess I'm not good at making normal titles. But let's see, let me see. Yeah, I had written a huge concept page a couple years ago of, titles for this story, and eventually I did. Like, the first title I went with was Of Demons and Rose Petals, and then I changed it to Of Demons and a Rose a year or so later, and that's where we're at right now. But yeah, here's the list of titles that I had come up with. So in order, the titles were Of Demons and a Rose, Of Demons and Rose Petals, A Blue Rose Blooms, A Blue Rose Blooms, and in parentheses, Rose Blossoms / Rose Blooms, And honestly, I think if Rose Blooms was going to be a title, it would probably be her Playdate title, or perhaps a title like when she leaves the team later after the New World Order, or I think Rose Blooms could be utilized somehow, but I don't know about it. Okay, next titles. Demons Relinked, with or without colon, a semicolon. I ended up using that with an Encephalon series. Demons Relinked was initially supposed to be about Zara and Rose meeting each other again, and it was a play on the Of Demons and Rose Petals title that I had come up with earlier, where they're all demons or whatever, blah, 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 but whatever edgy shit. But Demons Relinked was recycled as an Encephalon series a year or so later. Old and new friends alike, which doesn't make sense because old and new friends, plural, it's like Zara was Rose's only old friend, because Rose never had any friends as a child other than Zara, so... and I can use that, by the way. I can use the fact that Rose didn't really have any real friends as a kid. And I can tie that into the way that she behaved and how she mimicked her mother's abusive behavior. But that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. Anyway. So old and new friends alike. Welcome to the team, which... How bland can you get? I mean, really. Welcome Rose. Welcome to the team, Rose, with or without exclamation mark. Let's welcome Rose, with or without exclamation. I think that one's dumb, not just because of how bland it is, but because it kind of implies that there was an expectation there, you know? Like, let's welcome Rose kind of implies that they were already expecting to meet her, they already knew her, and she was already going to be on the team. Like, there's a lot of expectation to that title that doesn't fit. A new start, a rose replanted, or a rose replants herself, something like that. Rose blooms anew. Rose's new roots, leaving her roots behind. A rose and its thorns, and a rose meets its thorns. In parentheses, a rose meets her thorns. Yeah. But there's a lot of bad shit. Yeah, but, so, yeah, lots of titles for this next story that I'm going to write a summary for. Of Demons and a Rose, that's just the working title. I'm going to change it. I don't know what to, but I'm going to write the summary for it real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I wrote the summary for Of Demons and a Rose, and, during it, I kind of thought about the revamp for Rose leaving her family that I had already planned a while back. And I got to thinking, I'm not sure if I should do a whole, like, short story about just her and her thinking about leaving, struggling with that, arguing with her parents, and then leaving. And then when she gets to the hotel, and the thoughts that she has before she falls asleep, like, I'm debating on ending it there, making that its own story, and then making Of Demons and a Rose a totally different thing, where she explores Ponyville, gets familiar with its layout, meets ponies, like, and then, you know, that whole thing where she was building up the courage to ask for Zara, or ask if anybody had seen her. But I'm not sure. Now I'm thinking of what to do, really. I'm not sure. I'm gonna think about this a little bit more. Okay, so I ended up writing a summary for a story separate of A New Friend, and it actually turned out pretty good. And I'm starting to like this idea more, because not only does it give more stories to listen to and to write, but it also gives more substance to everything. Like, there's more time to focus on more things, instead of just cramming it all into one story and making it, like, way too long. Like, it's already going to be pretty damn long. But this way, we can have, like, one, medium/normal sized story, and then this next one would be, like, sort of a longer story, which would go into depth of both Zara and her home life and Rose and her home life, like both of them. Like, or we could end up doing, like, we make a story about Zara's home life by itself after the separation, and then do a story about Rose's after the separation. Like, turn them into, like, have a new friend, and then have 2 stories after that. One about Zara after the separation, and one about Rose after the separation. But it's still a concept right now. Highly conceptual is what I put next to the title. But I put a new friend, and then absence makes the heart grow colder. And here's what that story says. It says, Rose and little Scarlet have many more playdates over the next few months, well into the summertime. They have grown extremely close, so close that Scarlet reveals her super secret best friend name to Rose, and asks to be called Zara by Rose, and only Rose, as a sign of how much Zara trusts the unicorn. The 2 of them become inseparable this day, and yet it is the same day they become separated for what would feel like forever. But the separation would never last forever, and Zara would ensure that. A few days later, she would come up with a plan so heinous and so brilliant that she can't help but send letters to her only 2 friends, telling them about her scheme before she puts it into action. On the flip side, Rose also becomes a much more bitter individual after this, mimicking her mother's abusive behavior and developing sick ideas and behaviors of her own, without her only friend to keep her company. She would end up being a monster she never thought she could be, all while not knowing what she was becoming of her dear friend, and how close their reunion really was. So, this is going places, and I'm gonna tell Mandy. I don't know if I'm gonna well, I probably shouldn't call her, because it'll probably turn into like a 3-hour-long conversation, and I can't have that. To be honest, I probably should have been in bed an hour ago, because I gotta be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's already almost 10:40. But, I don't know, I was talking to Cam about Sugar and Spice today, and it just hit me. Like, the writing bug hit me hard today. It always does at the weirdest times. But yeah, I haven't written anything in so long, and I finally got the urge. I'm just like, I want to make the most of this. And I was kind of thinking about writing an encephalon thing, but that's a whole big thing on its own. I just want to focus on Brownies right now, since this has been such a long, ongoing thing. But I think I'm getting somewhere. I'm gonna tell Mandy about this new idea that I've got, and I don't know, we'll see where it goes. I mean, I don't know, really. So I asked her if she wants to hear me out on the ideas that I've had, because I told her I've had a lot of developments and stuff on it recently. So if she messages me back tonight, or here in a few, and asks about it, then I'll tell her, and I'll explain it to her tonight, and then I'll see where it goes tomorrow. Because I'm probably, like, unless something big happens, I'm going to, like, I'm definitely going to talk about this tomorrow, but yeah, I think I kind of like where this development is going. But for now, I'm just going to let it sit with the development, and just tell Mandy what my new ideas are, and see where it goes from there. That's pretty much what I'm gonna be doing. But I'm gonna turn this off now. If I get the urge to, like, record lines or whatever, like practice my voice acting for Rose or whatever, I'll do that. I still have to record something for Cam. I keep forgetting about that, but yeah, I'm gonna go and see if Mandy messages me back soon. If she doesn't message me back too soon, then I'll have to just call it a night and go to bed. But yeah, that was interesting. I should probably pick up my mic and record more when I develop things, because that went places that I was not expecting it to go. I really keep, like, underestimating how important it is to just start making things, you know? Like, no matter how uninspired you feel or how forced it might feel sometimes, it really is a big deal to just sit down and start doing it, and it could just go anywhere. Like, it really could just go anywhere. I was not expecting to come up with possibly 2 new story ideas tonight. Well, I knew I'd probably make 1 or more, but I didn't think it would be I didn't think either of them would branch out from a new friend. Like, I was expecting to come up with new story ideas, like, stuff that influenced Rose as a child. Like, completely separate of Scarlet. Like, I was not expecting it to be just from, like, to turn one story into 3. Like, I was not expecting to be doing that, but anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna get off here now. See ya.